So our song plays.
Every time we should describe that the song plays so that
This
we
is what
remember
we
to
do.
put the song in.
Yeah.
And then
That's
we
just an
say
editing
something
note.
like, hello and welcome to episode 3 of Chris and Jack's Pilot Podcasts, The Pilot. No.
Podcast Pilots. Wait.
Yeah,
Podcast Pilots, the podcast.
Episode 3.
Episode 3. So it's no longer the pilot, because that was what was so fun
Right.
about episode 1 is we could say podcast
Yeah.
pilots, the
Feels like
podcast, the pilot.
The gimmick's worse immediately.
Sure.
It's dying already. We're here
dying
in
on the
episode,
vine here immediately, y'all.
We're here in episode 3. You may have noticed that we're now trying to release these every other week. That's our plan for a little while. We'll see how that goes.
That's
other
exciting.
week.
I'm gonna say, Jack, I know we're just starting this thing, but I'm really enjoying this. I'm having a lot of fun in
I'm
a
having
way
fun
of
too.
like it's like in a way it's like it's an encouraged chunk of time where we get to put things to the side and then just get to spend time doing what I most enjoy doing with you, which is just riffing and talking on things, because I really enjoy talking to you about stuff.
It's nice to hang out. That if you're being reflective,
Yeah.
let me ask you. So far, we've done 4 pilots. If we were to make a second episode of any of the 4, would you like to make a second? Because this is a running question for us in this. And I do think sincerely, at one point, we'll make a second episode of one of these. When we decide that something's good enough, we'll do it. And maybe we'll make a third. So far of future FOMO, what do we call this?
Busting the blocks / June 20th something.
Yeah. Pre-rental guidance was one that I pitched for that. That's pretty good.
That's good.
Fanzane and space code something. Of those 4, what do you think we should make episode 2 of if we had to right now?
I don't want to I feel like that puts detriment on other ones that I think all of them have been fun in their own right. I feel most like a second episode of Future FOMO feels most plausible to me right now.
I think I would agree. So that's the bar. So let's have that as the bar.
Yeah.
That's like if right now we were to, although we could leave this up to other people to decide, but if we were to make a second episode right now, we would make a second episode of Future FOMO. But today, we're going to blow that crap out of the water.
And we probably should have done this, and we're not good at podcasts yet. This is a podcast where we test out a new kind of podcast every episode. That's what our podcast is about.
No one's tuning in for the first time, episode 3 of a Patreon exclusive podcast.
That would be weird.
Although
but if we
maybe
release
someday,
these publicly, then
maybe
no
someday
longer
it's
it's a public, or it's not
Wow.
a Patreon only thing. Wow.
So we're going to try 2 different podcasts. We're going to see how they go. We're going to judge, if we had a good time making them, if we feel like we could make more of them, if we feel like we're adding value to the world by making them.
Yeah. Is this a good podcast would be our question at the end.
Do we want to make more?
I humbly submit our next podcast pilot for our podcast pilot, podcast pilots, the podcast.
Which is not, and this one's not the pilot.
No, this is not the pilot, but it's another one I'm humbly submitting. Also we're flip-flopping because last time you started, I'm starting again. That's kind of
perfect.
Maybe in
Let's
the future we
establish
find
that
ways
pattern to
we're gonna do
not
flip-flops
give a
then.
shit about it later.
Yes, fair. Okay, so Jack, we're gonna do we do 30 minutes each podcast. So I'm gonna start a clock here for 30 minutes of my podcast.
And as always, we don't really talk about these ahead of time. Today, we haven't talked about them even a little bit. Last time, we talked about it a little bit because it was Fanzane. This time, we've not talked about it at all. Don't know what the other person's doing. And as always, never do any research to see if these are already podcasts. And Chris doesn't really listen to podcasts. So go ahead.
So here we go. I'm starting my timer now. All right, Jack. So from what I can gather in the podcast world, sometimes within an episode, or maybe there's even a podcast like that is wholly built around this thing, sometimes people take user-generated questions, fan questions, things that are like, oh, let's go to the phones.
Yeah. This is like a mailbag episode or whatever.
Yeah, so that's, but I also want to make it clear that, like, since this is a podcast pilot, this could be the whole premise of the podcast too. Okay. So I was like, oh, it would be really fun to have a like fan generated Q&A kind of podcast.
Okay.
And I was thinking, who is one of our biggest fans? And the answer was very quick in me realizing my mom. My mom is one of our biggest fans. Okay. So I had my mom, unbeknownst to, I didn't give her any prompts. I said, Mom, can you record some questions that you would like to hear us talk about and or answer on our podcast episode? Great. So this is a podcast I'm calling Moms Wanna Know. Okay?
Moms Wanna Know. In this case, so episode 2 might be
your
Nancy.
Mom or someone else's mom. I just want it to be Moms Wanna Know.
Is Lisbeth?
Yes, Lisbeth Smith.
Top question.
Yes. And I'll say I had to listen to him because I had to go through the like preparations of getting the files in order. I'm going to play them off my phone for you, but I think I'm going to also layer them in post, so it should be hopefully clearer in case it's a little bit fumbly here. But yeah, it was very fun to just kind of listen to what my mom just decided to like. No prompting.
Yeah.
But she's got a real style.
Ask us questions. That was the
assignment. I was like, Mom, we're doing this podcast. I explained to her what a podcast was. And then she's like, okay, well, here we go. So she sent me these.
Let's find out what moms want to know.
Let me play you question number 1. Give me a second. I'm pulling it up. Okay, you ready?
Yes.
You can hear this?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Hi, this is Lisbeth Smith. I'm Christopher's mom, and he requested that I share point by point the day of his birth for the wider enjoyment of the audience. So here it goes.
So clearly, your mom.
No, I won't do that to him, but I will try to put him on the spot a bit.
Good bit fake out, Lisbeth.
A few spur of the moment questions for Chris and Jack. So, Chris, can you tell me a bit more about the Icelandic mystical creature called the Lagerfjord worm? Where does it live? How does it lure the fair maidens into its web? And for inspiration, you may draw on your own high school dating experience in answering this question.
That's question 1, Jack. All right. And I'm going to start by saying...
You did this to yourself.
I have no clue what she's talking about when it comes to that prompt and how it somehow ties to my dating life in high school. But what I did do was I Googled what the Lagerfjord Lake worm is.
Yes.
It's an Icelandic creature. So let me just quickly give a little context for what I think she's asking about here.
And it's a great question. And I think all moms want to know, Chris.
What this question is.
Tell us about the Lagerfjord worm and how it relates to your dating life.
Also, Mom pulled a bit immediately off right there.
It's full Lisbeth.
Full Lisbeth. Full Lisbeth.
Just what a clear Chris and Nick Smith's mother. What a clear way to introduce yourself to our audience as so clearly your guys' mom.
Also very presentational, very very articulate.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I pulled up. It says, the legend says that if a worm is put on top of gold, the gold supply grows, but so does the worm. That is how the monstrous worm, which inhabits the lake Lagerfjord in East Iceland, came to be. So apparently kind of like a warning kind of thing. Like,
wait, I'm sorry. So the gold increases and the worm. So the gold.
I think it was about this, like, from what I can gather, this like girl put a worm on a gold ring or something like that, and then the worm grew as the gold grew.
So your wealth is increasing, but you're like creating this monster. This like little worm is growing into like a giant mythical beast that could kill you.
Yes. And now, in doing a deep dive into this fabled creature, none of it had anything to do with fair maidens. So I don't know exactly where she got that, but I did also find some stuff about fair maidens with regard to Icelandic lore. And one has to do with this story called the seal hide. And apparently the seal hide, it was believed that seals are beautiful maidens in disguise. Every now and then, seal maidens would shed their skin on the beach, dance naked in the night. If a man stole one of those hides, the seal maiden would become trapped in the human world, and the thief could make her his wife. Although the maiden might learn... This is
Little Mermaid.
Yeah, basically that. Exactly. And then the maiden might learn to love her husband and offspring, but she would always long for her life in the ocean. So I think the question merged two Icelandic lore worlds. If I were to somehow tie that to my high school dating life, which I think is what the question is getting at.
Well, so let's break it down. Talk to me about what was your high school dating life like? Did you date a lot in high school?
Absolutely not. So that probably is a loaded question of hers.
You've told me my favorite detail about your life in high school. Your nickname was Ice, right?
That was when I was kind of self-proclaiming. I appreciate that you give me the opportunity to make that my truth, but I was trying to push that on people.
Yeah, well, to be clear, I think it's a terrible nickname. So I
Here's my theory. Well, my true nickname was Inches because it didn't grow until I was 16.
Then
I had a big growth spurt, okay? Then at a point I was like, everybody's got these nicknames. Let me see if I can just let me just get a nickname out there. Yeah. And I thought Ice. I want to be known as Ice because I'm the guy who was like the icebreaker. I'm coming out. I'm going to be out there and do a bit. I don't care. I'll make sure everybody's having a good time.
This is why I think it's a terrible nickname, is what it was trying to communicate. Not because, like, I hear Ice, I think it's like, this guy's calm, cool, collected. Yep. I don't think this is the guy who breaks the ice. This is the guy who puts himself out there a lot with a lot of zany, fun, high-energy bits to make everybody feel comfortable. That guy does not sound like Ice. No. That sounds like someone who has broken the will of someone named Ice.
That sounds like someone who doesn't date much in high school. I think is more I'd say I think that my high school dating experience was more, I was a late bloomer, and then by the time I was like of interest to folks, it seemed a bit like I was out of practice. I had a real
you weren't really trying to date much.
No,
really.
I was always trying to be like I was very nervous to put myself out there, and then I think that my like version of trying to say I think I like you was always just like a half-baked, very unclear version of like, oh, I think that bit that I'm doing they're supposed to interpret is my version of being like interested.
Yeah, so the clarity of your trying to pick people up was akin to having the nickname Ice mean gregarious, outgoing community builder. Got it.
And so in some ways, tying that to the Icelandic lore of the Lagerfjord worm, and here I am thinking in real time, I don't have one yet, but I think it's probably have something to do with I was the worm. Gold was my gold both represented bits and flirtation. And the more that I grew with my bits, so did my flirtation, but they were all infused like a ring. Is there something to that? That's
not bad.
Does that kind of track in some way?
Here's my read based on how you're describing your dating life. I think there's a world where gold is your desire to date, right? And the worm is the pressure you put on that introduction. You know, it's like like as this thing becomes more and more desirable to you, it becomes more and more insurmountable because you're complicating it, you're making it a more difficult thing, you're overhyping it in your head, you're creating this monster that makes it impossible for you to get to the gold of just talking to somebody because you're making all these crazy layers of bits and nicknames and you know, creating a monster. If only
it were as easy as me just taking my seal hide off and then letting someone wear like a jacket, and then I can be the Little Mermaid for them. Good question, Mom.
Good question, Moms.
Great question. So I'm going to go back to the question board here. I got a few.
Okay.
Lisbeth has another question for us.
Oh, we got one coming in from Lisbeth.
Elizabeth Smith, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I'm gonna stay quiet on my sides for the clarity of the audio, but feel free to chime in as you need.
Well, I want to be able to hear.
Yeah. Okay.
I kept giggling.
Here we have the next one. I think this one is kind of a bit too. So
I'm assuming each one has a pre-launch
they all kind of seemingly have a bit.
No,
I'm
just kidding.
All right, here we go.
Very bad. Your mom impression.
Hi, Jack. This is Lisbeth, Chris's mom. I was just wondering, during this past year of your preparation for the upcoming national holiday of July 6th Park, what are you mostly excited about the Velociraptor sumo wrestling competition or the Silotherus eating contest? And please provide details of your journey into deciding on those two particular events. Thank you.
Got a lot to unpack there, Jack. And that was directed to you. So you have to answer that question.
Oh, thank you. I'll field this one, Chris.
Great.
I'll say it's I don't want to date when this podcast is being recorded, but we're within a month of July 6th Park.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't yet made a plan of any kind. I mean, obviously we have, and I don't want to break the premise. I have two very specific activities that will definitely be happening, and I'm excited for both. But also, I'll say, we haven't fully formed all of the plans for all of the festivities, but I am legitimately excited. I do actually genuinely want to do it. Lisa and I and our baby Francis, we moved during the last year. We're at a place that's now got some nice outdoor space, a nice backyard, and I'm genuinely excited to have some festivities. I know in the reality of our sketch work, I'm sort of, obviously, I would say I'm the protagonist.
You're the poo-pooer.
I'm the protagonist, but from the frame of reference of the holiday, I'm the antagonist, right?
But sometimes there's an anti-hero.
Sure. I assume everyone watching it is rooting for me to one day finally kill your will.
Sure.
But in real life, I do really have such a great time when we do this every year. And last year, not being able to do it in person was a genuine bummer. So I'm really excited about it. And I'll say specifically, I'm excited for the two following events. The Velociraptor sumo wrestling competition,
right,
which is one of those. So I got inflatable sumo suits, right? And I also got inflatable Velociraptor suits. And the idea is that you'd be wearing both, and we'll have to figure out which direction fits better. The idea, I think, is Velociraptor suit, then sumo suit on the outside, with my hope that the counter pressure of two inflatable suits creates a bouncy outside and a friggin' rock hard Velociraptor interior, so that we can get some real brutal combat going. Which will be fun.
On July 6th Park.
Yes. And the other one, I don't remember the name of the dinosaur.
I think it almost sounded like an invented dinosaur of some kind, eating contest.
Yeah, which I assume is, again, another costume thing. Mm-hmm. And I have enjoyed pie eating contests before. You and I were in one time, right? Didn't we?
Yeah, at a haunted hayride.
The haunted hayride. We did a pie eating contest. I had a genuine good time, and I think I won.
You did. I'll say my experience with pie eating contests, I've done them a couple times, and I don't know why I allowed it to happen twice, because the first time, I don't know what it is, but the idea of competitive eating makes my stomach
you have an intense
shrink. I can have a big appetite, and then when it's on the pressure of having to eat for competition, I was like, oh, I'm going to puke. There's no doubt. I'm just going to throw up, even though I'm kind of hungry, but I don't want to do this right now.
A sympathetic puker.
Yeah, there's a lot that would be a problem there. To just know that someone next to me could at any moment, then I'd be like, well, then I'm going to be the one next in line.
So I'll say that one I'm more excited about to have Chris puke.
And I have to participate, obviously, because you came up with this event. You've been planning it for a year.
And you made us do this every year.
I mean, obviously, see, that's good. We're keeping the kayfabe alive.
Thank you for learning the word kayfabe for me.
I really enjoy that word, and I like that
really,
I'm kind of in a
useful term.
Yeah.
If y'all don't know it's a wrestling thing, look it up.
Nice. So, Jack, we have another question coming in from our Moms Want to Know. This one's from Lisbeth.
From Lisbeth.
This one's from Lisbeth. And great. Okay, here we go.
Hey, Chris, it's Mom again. I was just wondering, decade by decade, what actually happened in Monkey Island? Thank you.
Okay, so for those that couldn't hear that question, what actually happened in Monkey Island decade by decade?
What's Monkey Island? Quick refresher course for me.
I'm very glad that you asked that question, Jack, because I think it's kind of important for context. Monkey Island is a circle of trees. Imagine a donut, but made out of pine trees. So there's a clearing in the middle of this ring of trees, and it was right outside my house. So if you're in my house growing up, I grew up in Tahoe, in the woods. There's like a lagoon behind us towards the lake, but in front of the house, right across the street, there's a big meadow, wood line area, and then it's pretty beautiful. There's this kind of section of trees, maybe the size of a few football fields, but it creates a big ring. So it's kind of strange. Like there's a thick exterior, and then when you get to the middle, it's like very open. So it's got this energy to it. It's got this kind of like, how did this form like this? It's almost like a UFO landing pad or something, which is what my mind had always placed it at. I don't know who called it Monkey Island. I think it was my dad, but at some point someone was just like, yeah, it's Monkey Island or something. And that's what stuck. And so we called that ring of trees Monkey Island. And
were there monkeys to your knowledge?
No monkeys to my knowledge. But you would often hear at night howling and things coming from Monkey Island because it was coyotes. A lot of coyotes like to hang out there. If we were to break it down decade by decade, I'll say going so far back in my life.
Okay.
That was where I was going to plan it. Okay. But that's at least my knowledge of it.
I'd at least like a couple bits of intel of decades, starting as far back as 65 million years.
Right. I'd say, so 65 million years ago, a giant cephalopod stepped onto a section of mud, which created a singular ring in the shape of its foot. That's a fact.
And then 10 years later,
64,999,990 years later, the I'll say fast forwarding before my birth still, there was a point at which this land in front of, we live in the area called the Keys. There was a preservation put up on that land there. So there's it's like preserved land for wildlife and whatnot. But it was a place where I'd always frequent as a kid. So Chris, 0 to 10, we didn't move into that house till I was 6. So the last part of that was like an initial exploration of what that area was like, getting my bearings. Okay. Probably went out there as like a 10-year-old. Okay. 10 to 20, most active decade of Monkey Island in my life, for sure.
Was that like the cool hangout spot? Was that like your go-to?
That was yes. Couple things happened out there. We did it was a cool hangout exploration place. Friends, like I could say like, hey, let's go check out Monkey Island, see what's in there. Would go in there and find weird shit too, which told me it was probably a place where vagrants hung out a little bit. There was and it also built to the lore of the place because went in there one time, would find like a teddy bear that shouldn't be there. One time I found just like a singular ice skate. There's nowhere to skate around there. Weird. That's weird. Then
do you suspect that there was a full on like Swiss Family Robinson of Monkey Island?
Well, let's not jump the gun on our decades here, Jack, because I got another decade coming up. But in this one, there was a point where I'll say the two biggest things happened this decade. One was I made a movie when I was 18, and then I had the whole opening sequence was shot in Monkey Island. So that was like a real big culmination of my knowledge.
What Monkey Island looks like.
Yes, you've seen this.
Yes.
And so was in there, and then later realized so much of that opening sequence also was filmed inside a tent. And then I realized later, after I realized how movies actually work, I was like, we didn't have to lug generators and things into this island in the middle of the woods. We're shooting interiors of a tent. That could have been my backyard. That could be my living room. But got some sweet exteriors.
The shadows.
You got to have that real feel, and you could feel it in the performance.
Yeah.
The other thing that happened out there was Blair Witch Project came out. I was in high school, and I'd never seen it yet. I didn't see it in theaters, and then secretly was too scared to. Then decided one night that it was going to be some high school friends came over. We rented Blair Witch, and then said let's watch it. Say nothing when it ends. Get some flashlights and walk to the middle of Monkey Island. Turn the flashlights off. Let's see what happens. That was the thing. That was our big test.
Classic ice.
Real classic ice move, man. Ice in the veins. You know me.
And
I was doing all kinds of crazy bits. Well, the best part for the story, not for me, was that then we're sneaking out into to Monkey Island after this thing. It's terrifying, by the way. It looks exactly like what the Blair Witch kind of area looks like, generally speaking. So we're sneaking out of there into Monkey Island in that ring of trees. We're all so hyper aware. Anything with how hyper aware we were that would snap or twist would have like set us running home, right? So then we're going through. My buddy Mike Sang is right in front of me holding a mag light. Here's a twig snap, probably one of us in the line of people that's like stepping around there. He immediately on a dime turned and then was like so quickly freaked to turn and run away, turned and then swung the mag light unaware straight into my face. Got mag light to the jaw because Mike Sang heard a twig snap in Monkey Island. So that was probably the other biggest part of that decade. Were
you then allowed to turn on a flashlight to assess what happened to your jaw?
Then after, the rules were I couldn't do that until I got home, obviously.
So and then a rule breaker.
Yeah, and then a jawbreaker, more like it. That's what I'm saying. And then
just to check, Ice never in that decade. Ice never brought a date out to Monkey Island.
Ice had no dates to take out there.
Gotcha. Okay.
Then flash forward the next decade. Probably not a lot of activity in Monkey Island I was aware of. On occasion, because I was in college, I was in LA. When I'd go up there, it'd be maybe I would go out there in some snowshoes, kind of poke around, see around what's going on.
Did you have a younger brother of 4 years younger? 5 years younger?
5 years.
Did he have a similar, like during these decades while you're off in college, does he have a similar relationship with Monkey Island? Was he also having adventures out there? Do you know? Or are these gaps in Monkey Island knowledge?
I don't know. These are gaps for sure. I think I was the more adventurous of the Monkey Island adventurers. Mm-hmm. The last.
He also grew up knowing that jaws get friggin' broken out there.
Yeah, and watch out for those ice skates because you never know, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The last thing in the decade span of Monkey Island, I'll say, is my most recent entry. Now, here we're in the fourth decade, or third. No, 0 to 10. I'm 36.
Yeah, so this is the fourth. Did you do anything decade. For 20 to 30? Did anything happen during 20 to 30?
That was the one I was saying. Like when I was in college, I was just like going in there snowshoeing or whatever. The most recent one,
fourth decade.
This fourth decade, last winter, I went in there talking about Swiss Family Robinson. Giant structure built in there. Like, have photographs of this thing.
You sent me a picture of this. Now I remember this.
And it's incredible. It's actually impressive. It's a very impressively constructed wood thing with like two wooden stumps in it. It's like someone went in there and they were just like, either we're going to live or this is going to be our little tea ceremony spot. Or maybe the only other logical explanation is ice skate weaponized animal sacrifice location, probably, right?
Oh, wow. Because you left that ice skate out there for the following 2 decades.
Yes, never touched that.
We didn't do enough tracking of this ice skate in our decade recap.
Well, for all we know, in the decades, it's still out there. You never know when you need an escape.
Predictions for Decade 5 for Monkey Island? Will this sacrifice ritual lead to anything? Will there be a rise of some druidic demon?
My hope is that the ceremonies work out in our favor for like protecting Monkey Island, because I do have a sinking fear that as California gets drier, there's a chance that Monkey Island may burn one day.
Oh, that's a bummer.
It would be a bummer.
Yeah.
Because it gets last time I was out there this last summer too, there was like a lot of dry pine needles out there. I was like, ooh, this would go up.
The construction project that you showed me was all sort of just like kindling wrapped around.
Looked like a fire starter for sure.
Yeah. That's
what you would kind of build it's a larger version of what you'd build in a fireplace to be like, I made my little teepee of wood and let's put some paper under it.
Yeah.
So here's hoping that whatever druidic stuff is going out there has protected Monkey Island for decades to come.
Cast a ward effect.
I have one final question from our fan.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Here. This is coming from, let's see here, Lisbeth Smith is her name.
Sure. Yeah, Lisbeth's welcome to submit a question as well.
Yes. All right. So here's her question now.
Hey, Jack. Chris may have told you how much I love babies. So what would you say to Chris to encourage him to give me some grandchildren? Just the joys of fatherhood. take him through a day in the life of Frances from the moment she wakes up, 3 a.m. onward. And also, I'm really curious as to how long it takes you and Lisa to debrief Frances after Uncle Chris has come for a visit. Thank you.
So there we have it. And I think debrief is like straight up like let's go over the facts here of what that experience was like for you, that traumatic event.
She's only met you the once, really.
Yeah, there's been
like
two in time passing. There was
but you came to her first birthday party. She's now a year and 2.5 months, 3 months. Or 3.5 months? I don't friggin' know what months are.
You don't. That's not important for your life.
That's not important. 2.5. She met you the once, and you were a big hit. You gifted her some juggling balls and did a thorough demo. You juggled for a while for her, and she seemed genuinely enwrapped. So I'd also heard she was a real, like, she loves lemons. She loves yellow. Like, they were lemon-shaped objects. Well curated juggling balls for sure, and have remained a hit. Here's the day in the life, Chris, and here's why you gotta do it, man.
I mean, this is what's gonna put me over the edge because obviously I've chosen not to have grandkids to spite my mother.
You're otherwise
or not to have kids to spite my mother for grandchildren.
Ready.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Wake up time, not necessarily 3. There's been a couple of those recently. That was certainly the case a while ago, but at a little over a year, we're not getting too many 3 a.m. freak out wake ups. A more common wake up time, somewhere between 6 and 7.
Okay. I can get up that early sometimes.
Yeah. You're up. I'll be up with her, and I'll like, you've like been posting on Instagram by the time I'm hanging out with her sometimes. So you're ready for that, Chris. If that was the tipping point,
that might even help my life. That might be like, oh, now this is really getting me. This is upping my productivity. Thank you, baby. Yeah. That's as far as it goes.
That's what they're very good for. They're very good for productivity. As
listening.
I'm sure you've noticed.
Yes.
She'll usually be up for around her current nap schedule. Oh, we're in such a flux point here. I think she's about to drop a nap, Chris, and it's going to be crazy when she does. Current nap schedule, honestly, right now, she's a peach, man. She's like incredibly sweet. So she'll be up for like 3 hours. She'll be up from whenever, like 6, 7 to like, 9 or 10. Then she'll sleep for like an hour. Then she'll be up for another 3, sleep for another 1.
That hour she's sleeping, I could easily squeeze in a workout.
Get it in.
Get my lunch in there.
And filling that time, Frances is very down to be read to. She'll like grab books and hand me books, and I can just read a lot during that time. She likes it if I put on music. She'll do a little baby butt dance to ask for music to be put on. And then one day we showed her a documentary with some elephants in it, and she started doing a little like elephant sound and raising her hand above her head to constantly ask to see that documentary, and learned the word documentary because we would refer to it to each other as a documentary. And now if we say the word documentary, she'll go, poof!
Oh my gosh, great. She's a cinephile already.
She is. She loves this Meghan Markle narrated elephant documentary on Disney. It's really good. So that's a big part of my routine is watching 5 minutes of that to then distract her. Because I don't want to have her just like watching TV all the time. You're technically not supposed to have them in front of like screens at all until like 18 months is what like most of the recommendations are. So we do like 5 to 10 minutes. Then I find something
then you
to
blindfold
like,
her,
pull her
and then
focus.
You keep it playing.
Yeah. Usually my move is she'll need food, like halfway during that wake up window, she'll need to like eat breakfast. So I will like 5 minutes before she should eat, put on the documentary, and then 5 minutes into that, start making the hand signal for like, oh, food, you want some food? And then she'll like sprint out of the room to go get some food. That's a good prank. And then she comes back in and the movie's gone and she just starts being all over the place and like, sorry,
you pranked
dude,
her hard.
You
dude.
missed it. You missed the show. It's over. It's
So
a
I
good
can prank
documentary.
my
There's some
baby a
scary
lot.
parts. Oh, you prank them. They're so easy to prank. They have very short memories. So you get them to remember one thing, then you sneak it away, and then that's a good prank.
This is sounding better by the moment. Also, that was timed, by the way, on my podcast.
That was timed.
Yeah.
Well, then I'll briefly. It's all gold. You should have a baby. You watch documentaries with them. You feed them. You mostly like weird little pouches. Easy.
Oh my God, easy.
It's an excuse for me. You know what I've eaten so much more of recently? Is I've been making a lot of like an easy thing to give her in the morning is like pancakes. So just at like 6:30 in the morning, I'm just making pancakes, and I really like chocolate chip pancakes. But I'm like, you're a baby, you don't need chocolate. So I'll make a thing of pancakes and make myself some chocolate chip pancakes, and I always think I'm getting away with it, and it's very clear she clearly knows that something else is going on in my pancakes and throws her pancakes on the ground and asks for my pancakes, and I'll like very carefully rip her portions of my pancakes that don't have chocolate chips in them so that she's just getting regular pancakes, and she's very upset about it. Prank your babies.
Yes.
Prank your babies.
I imagine you're also making your pancakes Mickey Mouse pancakes, and she's not getting that shape either.
Because like you're not supposed to be watching TV at this age anyways, baby. You don't need Mickey Mouse pancakes.
No.
It's just gonna encourage
And Disney
you
owns
to-
everything. We don't need to make this a corporate thing.
including our beloved elephant Meghan Markle documentary.
Right.
She's good, by the way. She's a good narrator. She
Okay.
pulls it off well. Yeah,
That's important. That's important, especially for the nature docs. You got to it's got to feel like someone is in there with you. They're also like an access point for the audience, but also has an element of expertise about their voice
and royalty. You know,
Royalty
you want
is
just that
important.
like regal
former royalty, technically, right?
I guess.
Is that
I
the way
guess
this
so.
is? Is that what we say now?
I thankfully don't really know.
Neither do I. I may have
a baby,
completed
give
may have committed
Lisbeth some
faux pas.
grandchildren. She's obviously got a lot of time on her hand right now. So I think you owe her this much.
It's time. I'll just have to wear my seals. I'll have to take my sealskin off. You know, that's really it. I feel like it's in the air. Well, thank you, Jack, for entertaining Moms Want to Know.
That was Moms Want to Know.
There's a podcast. There's
That's
something.
a podcast.
There's a
That's a podcast.
Um,
Great questions, Elizabeth. Great bits.
yes, I was very surprised how bitty they were. I did not expect that at all. My mom does not bit hard, but I can't help but
She knows her
expect
audience.
that she knows her audience. She knows. She also can't help but also through osmosis. Probably now I'm realizing that's the only way she gets like 25% real Chris and Nick, and then 75% bit Chris and Nick.
Yeah.
So
That's what I'm saying. It's like just very clearly,
she knows how to communicate to her kids.
and
And you.
and me, which we're, you know, I'm her third.
You're in the fold. You're in the nest. Also, just
Although I've
speaking
never
of nests,
been up and visited Monkey Island.
no, you've never been to Tahoe, which is just
I know.
crazy.
You know
You got
why?
a lot.
You know why? You know what part of it is? I'm so allergic to cats.
Sure.
I know there would be workarounds, but you got cats, and so I'm
You have
always
the-
like, I don't push hard to go up to Tahoe because I'm like, oh, he's got cats.
Well, that's where you also, I feel like, in a way, that is going to be your greatest asset when it comes to a really great Tahoe experience, because you're not going to want to stay at my place. You're going to want to rent your own friggin' cabin or your own, go to like a resort, and then you're going to have an even better Tahoe experience. And then we meet up, you know, you don't have to come to my house, but you can go to Monkey Island. There's no cats out there.
Why haven't I done this?
This is crazy.
All right, let's
Also,
go.
I was going to say, speaking of nests, just a sidebar on me and Nick's current, like at our apartment on the patio, there's a bird that just made a friggin' nest in one of our plants, laid 2 eggs, just sitting there. So now we don't go out on our patio to spook it. We don't.
We had a bird. We had some finches lay eggs in the little like overhang on our little patio, and we let it happen and we encouraged it, and they had the babies, and then we were chill about the babies, but they just made such a mess and shit everywhere for so long that once they were done and left, we took it out, and now they know to come. They know we've got a good cozy spot, and we've just been pulling down all the twigs every time they start a new nest, and it's been now like 2 months of battle where they won't give up. We try to get them where we have luckily gotten them early enough that they never lay an egg in there, so we're not, destroying any eggs. But it's a tough one.
It's a real twig of war.
Okay. That seals it for that podcast. I mean, we're not getting better than Twig of War. I'll transition us to a very low energy podcast. Are you ready for this?
I'm born ready.
We've done some real beautiful high energy podcasts.
I am ice after all.
You're ice, man. So, Chris, I've been struggling really bad with insomnia.
Okay.
Are you aware of the podcast genre of sleep aid podcasts?
100%. Like story? People like tell stories, or they tell boring stuff to make you sleep?
So this is the thing that I want to focus on.
Okay.
In our podcast, which is called Cruisin for a Snoozin.
I like that.
Thank you. I double checked to see if it was anything, and it is a product line of like sleep bombs. So we
already have a sponsor.
We got a sponsor. I'd like to focus on the idea of I do go to sleep to I need to be listening to something to fall asleep. And the formula that I've found is I need something that is like 75% interesting. That like it can't be boring. If it is boring, I will just think about other stuff. If it is so interesting that it's got me like buzzing, I will stay awake. So what I need is something that is like just 7 out of 10 kind of interesting. It has to just be kind of interesting. So my go-to for that generally has been like audiobooks of things I've already read or watch. Like right now I'm listening to the Two Towers audiobook. So I'm going through.
That's like a 7 out of 10 for you? Like you're getting something narrative, but it's kind of calming? Or
yes, I say that. I'm struggling really bad with insomnia right now. So last night I listened to 3.5 hours of that audiobook.
Maybe it's too interesting. Maybe it's an 8 out of 10. Interesting.
It might be an 8 out of 10. But the idea for me of like an audiobook of something that I'm familiar with is like, I know the story well enough that I'm not going to be upset. I'm not going to be upset if I like realized I've fallen asleep. It's not going to like keep me awake because I'm like, don't want to miss the thing because it's like, I know where this is going. I can pick it back up tomorrow. This is fine.
Right.
But since it's like an audiobook of a novel I've never read, I've only seen the movie, I'm familiar with the story, but there's tons of like little details and interesting bits that keep me plugged in. But yeah, maybe right now it's too interesting. We were at the Entmoot. We were in the Entmoot, and I just was like so intrigued by all the there's just so many more rich details in there that aren't that are not made to be put in films.
Right.
Like Tom Bombadil. You know about this guy?
Oh, I know about Tom. There was a big pushback that Tom wasn't in.
I understand why. What a weird character.
Fair. But the truists, everybody wants it.
Yeah.
So this is Cruisin for a Snoozin. Is this going to be Cruisin for a Snoozin for you, or specifically, or Cruisin for a Snoozin for anyone that wants to take a snooze?
This is for anyone who wants to take a snooze, which means this podcast pilot not for everybody. If you're working out right now, turn this off. This podcast is not for you.
This isn't the Blockbuster one that we did earlier that obviously you listen to when you're in the middle of massive gains in the gym.
And that one is so universal where even if you're 10 years younger than us, you still care about which movies
Enemy
came
of the
out
State.
in
You still care about Enemy of the State?
Yeah. So I invite us, Chris.
Yeah.
What I've done is I've pulled up a Wikipedia article. I hit random until I found something that I thought was kind of interesting.
Also, I like what your voice is doing now. I think this is setting a tone. We're supposed to get a little closer and a little quieter.
Yeah,
right?
I would like this to be a slower paced, inviting, calming tone podcast. So I've pulled up a Wikipedia article that I found interesting but not too interesting.
7 out of 10?
7 out of 10. And that might be honestly overselling it. That's for you to decide. You can tell me if this is too boring. I figured what we'll do is...
feeling really relaxed personally
that's great.
Right now already. I might snooze while we're cruising.
And that's fine. I'll keep it going.
Okay. And I'll do the same. I got your back.
Thank you. I've got your back, Chris.
Wow.
So I figured we can cruise around Wikipedia until you snooze in your bed or armchair while not driving.
And you being the listener, you're not talking to me. Yeah,
of course. So I figured we'd start with an article, and then within that article, we can find other branch points and just kind of fall deeper and deeper into Wikipedia holes as we fall closer and closer into a beautiful relaxation of sleep. So anytime you'd like, Chris, you can prompt me if we're too interesting or not interesting enough to click to another article embedded within here, anything that sounds interesting to you, we can pop around.
And are you reading just verbatim Wikipedia articles, or are we talking about these articles? Like you're introducing a topic and then we're talking about them, and then it's like, that's interesting. Let's look up that thing now that's come up in conversation.
My thought was that we would talk about it, but if talking about it is talking about something an 8 out of 10?
I think us talking about it, 4 out of 10. So okay, I think we're probably...
So just read, I guess?
No, I think we read and talk. I think what I'm saying is that I like the idea that we get to talk about it, but I think that the homework to talk about something and not sound and not be more than a 7 out of 10 is... I like the idea of that. It takes the pressure off for me because everything we say and do normally, 11 out of 10.
11 out of 10. So we get to relax finally, and hopefully you'll relax along with us on today's episode of Cruising for a Snoozing. Chris, I invite you into the world of Get the Message, a televised game show produced by Mark Goodson and Bill Todman, which aired on ABC's daytime schedule for 9 months in 1964. Frank Buxton was the original host and was replaced by Robert Q. Lewis. What does the Q stand for?
Quill?
The Q doesn't stand for anything. His name is Robert Goldberg, and he added the Q accidentally when he responded to a reference to comedian F. Chase Taylor's character, Colonel Lemuel Q, by saying, and this is Robert Q. Lewis. So this show, Get the Message, you've got 2 teams of 3 people. It's men versus women, in that age.
Yeah, as you do.
They competed, and you had 1 contestant and 2 celebrities. And on each turn, the celebrities were shown a message with like a noun, I think, basically just a person, a place, a thing, a common phrase, perhaps, on a screen in front of them. And then the celebrities wrote down a 1-word clue on index cards without like discussing it with each other.
Do you think the card, did they write with a pen, a pencil?
So it doesn't say in this Wikipedia article, and I'm not sure where to get that. We would have to watch an episode of this, which... well, we'll get there in a second. Is
interesting.
Is teasing something too interesting?
That's putting it at a 9 out of 10. I'd say bring it back a little bit. Yeah. I was thinking that the pencil thing might be fun to, like, in an ASMR way, imagine, they're scribbling their word on a card right now in a pencil.
I'm going to be honest, though, like in terms of details, when I'm imagining a show, me trying to picture, is it a pencil or is it a marker? I think is like a 3 out of 10.
Well, I think that's like and not a marker.
Oh, well, wow. We've bumped it up to 2.5 out of 10. What a fucking boring ass question.
This is also
Chris, 7 out of 10, Chris. 7 out of 10. Keep it interesting.
I don't know if you can hear my voice, but I'm trying to suppress laughter.
You're very close to the mic.
I'm trying to suppress my laughter so regularly right now. I got it together.
Do you think those sounds, the like of a withheld laugh, do you think that's like an unpleasant thing to fall asleep to? Because I feel like it probably is.
That's kind of I feel like that's probably kind of a nice little.
Is this like relaxing?
Sheep jumping over a.
Is that relaxing? Do you find that relaxing?
That to me sounds. I mean, that could be sheep jumping over a fence.
Yeah, count the stifled snorts.
Yeah.
So, Chris, with a pen or pencil, we'll have to do the research later to find out. All 4 celebrities wrote down a 1-word clue on index cards without discussing among each other, which I think the intention there is the like potentially interesting gaming moment. So then, because then you show your clues to the celebrities show their clues to their contestant, and the contestant has to guess the word. And I guess there's a potentially interesting gaming moment of like, the celebrities both wrote the same 1-word clue, so therefore the contestant gets less information because they only got 1 clue because they both wrote the same thing.
I see.
So therefore you should try to write, you should try to be a little lateral. You should write like the second most interesting thing you could think to write instead of the first most the second most telling thing.
Because you're hoping to kind of like build a larger picture. You're hoping that your word will,
that your word combined with the other celebrity's word will give enough of a clue for them to get it. I think is like sort of the interesting game theory.
Great.
So both celebrities on the team show their clues, read their clues to their teammate, who then gets to attempt to guess. And if incorrect, play passes to the opposing team, who follows the same process. And if the opposing contestant fails to get the message, then you get another round of clue writing. So then you have an opportunity to like respond to the previously given clues.
Still,
and then if
still
no
hunting
one's got
towards the same one. It's not a new target.
Right. And then after 2 rounds, if no one's gotten it, then they discard the message and go to a new message.
Right.
Correct answers are 1 point, and 3 points wins. What do you think the prize is, Chris?
For this game?
1964, get the message. What do you think the prize is?
I am going to say it's a cash prize.
Yes, I should clarify.
$500.
The prize of that round is $100, and then later you can get up to $300. So I think like your total take home, we're in the $500 zone. I think that's correct.
Great.
After this round, there's a bonus round where the winning team played a turnabout game bonus round where the contestant gets a message and then they orally convey a clue to each celebrity and try to get the celebrity to guess. And if they can get the celebrity to guess, contestant wins $100 for each clue they get the celebrity to guess.
I have a question that may make this too interesting.
Yes, great. And I do have a follow-up topic that this right now is feeling, to be honest, 4 or 5. Like I don't know if we've... I don't know if we've... So I think go for the question because I don't think
my question was going to be, if you were in this situation as a contestant, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of contestants in these games. And I think to myself, if I'm seeing celebrities here in this situation, I wonder if I'd get more or less stressed as a contestant. I'm like, would I be? I'm thinking multiple things. I'm thinking, is it that because there's a celebrity here, the nerves of maybe being around someone I'm a fan of are offsetting the nerves of being in a game show scenario because they're probably that I don't have enough room for all those nerves, or
you're worried that your celebrity is going to be like Grace Kelly, and that your clue will just be the word dinner.
Right.
And you're just going to keep wasting rounds by trying to ask her out on a date? Is that the concern?
That's the real main thing. I think also it also depends on what celebrities you get, what batch you get, because think about it. Like when they have their big season finale,
it's a little loud, Chris. It's a little loud.
Oh, is it loud for me?
I think it's a little loud.
I'm looking at my waveforms and I didn't know if they were super loud. I think it's just audio adjusting.
Not necessarily the audio. I just meant like tonally. I feel like you're being a little spiritually loud.
Oh, I see. Oh, I got it. Yeah. Right. Okay. Back down to a 7. I'm just wondering if maybe there's a zone of a, like if you're having the big season finale, what kind of, and you have a big celebrity, is that going to be the thing that suddenly makes it harder to compete in this kind of game? I'm just curious what your experience as a contestant would be like on this.
I don't think I would be thrown by celebrities. I think there's maybe like a lot of times on these type of shows with like celebrity contestants where they're not playing for prizes, but you are, and they're on your team. I feel like a lot of times those celebrities get like locked in a good way, where it's like they want to win it for you. They want to be like a kick-ass star teammate, and for them, like the stakes are pretty low. So there's not a lot of pressure on them, but there's a lot of like, heck yes, I want to win this for you.
Right.
Caitlin, we're going to do this, you and me, Caitlin. Do you think that just got too interesting for anyone out there named Caitlin? Do you think that would have startled them away?
Probably. There's definitely, if someone named Caitlin has already fallen asleep, they may still be asleep, but if they have a sleep app on their phone, there was definitely a spike that they'll see in the morning.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like there was a bit of a sleep rotation at that point, is my guess. I was also curious if in this situation that like having a celebrity being on your side. That's always so familiar when you see celebrities compete on things. They're competing for different charities. It's always a charity that they're raising their money for. Mm-hmm. Part of me is just like, why not let the celebrities actually compete for money they get to keep?
I think
is that too interesting a question?
The assumption is that we're not going to be excited to see a millionaire win $10,000. We're going to be like,
but
all right,
all celebrities millionaires, I guess.
So I do very much think about this sometimes on these shows where I do constantly go, like, if you're a smaller celebrity on this, like if you're, and I say this as someone who's on Cameo, if you're on Cameo,
shout out,
and then you're on and then you're also on one of these shows, and I see you like competing for $1 million for charity, I'm going like, but you could use it.
You could use a portion of that. And you are in a way, because it is that what then, by being a celebrity at that point, does it ever diminishing marginal returns? Like in theory now, by being so big, you could have your tour, your reunion tour, your kind of like, hey, let's do a nostalgia thing. And everyone just assumes because your household name got all this money, but you might have spent it all on that third boat that sank.
Yeah.
Or didn't sink, if that's too interesting. I don't know what Caitlin feels.
How are you doing, Caitlin?
Are you still?
Is it nice and relaxing?
Is this relaxing for you?
That
Caitlin?
is an interesting thought experiment of the celebrity who is big enough to be on one of their shows, but isn't in a financial position. And so they like money launder through a fake charity.
Right.
And are actually just playing Who Wants to Be a Millionaire for real.
And all of their one-word clues are like direct, and then the next one is deposit, and then it's their account number.
One digit at a time.
Yeah.
Some other things about Get the Message, Chris.
Love that.
It was a very short-lived run. You probably haven't heard of this. I hadn't heard of this game show because it was only on for half a year. They did make a Milton Bradley board game adaptation of Get the Message, but I don't think it did particularly well.
Okay.
And the reason it doesn't have a lasting legacy, in addition to one element that I'll get to in a second, but the practice at the time was to dump the footage. Like, this stuff generally wasn't archived. So it was a show that was like aired live, and then when a show got canceled, they wiped it.
Wow.
So most of this show is lost to time, with the exception of 3 episodes, which are housed where, Chris? This is fun, but not too fun.
Library of Congress.
No. You can guess along at home.
Paramount Pictures.
No. You can guess along at home, but you might have less likely of a chance of getting this than Chris does. Chris might, for a unique reason, be equipped to answer this.
I'm going to say somewhere in Denmark?
No. How did you get there?
Well, you said, I guess if you're thinking locationally unique for me, I have family.
How would they get there, do you think?
By plane would be my guess.
Fair.
And sometimes these production companies can be international, but then again, I don't know. Back then, maybe not. I'll say maybe somewhere in North Hollywood.
Nope.
Okay.
A guessing game. That's sort of interesting. That makes you, I think this keeps you on the hook at least until the end. Like, you're not going to fall asleep in the middle of a guessing game, even a boring guessing game.
Right.
But then maybe you're just like hanging on for this, and once we get the answer, you'll go
relief.
like, oh, that wasn't that. I don't need to think more about that. I can just go to sleep now.
Right. So do we keep going till I guess?
Yeah, I think just to give you a frame of reference, we're barely halfway through this podcast. We're moving at a really leisurely pace. So I feel like, you can keep guessing.
And we have to go down a hole, right? Don't we have to go down a
That was the
Wikipedia
idea,
hole?
but maybe...
Can I ask then, maybe this be one of the sections where we go a little deeper when it comes to, well, maybe I should guess it first.
Yeah.
And then from there, what the answer is might lead us in another little rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You say it's unique for me. I wonder if there's something maybe having to do with, maybe the thing was shot in Reno, and it's up in Reno, Nevada. That's near my hometown.
Nope. It's something that we share.
We share this.
It's a place that you could logically think would hold the originals of a game show. And we both have a connection to this place.
UCLA?
It's at the UCLA Film and Television Archive, which
that's fun.
We would regularly have to go to for classes. Sometimes we both studied theater there, and sometimes teachers would put a video on hold, and you'd go and you'd watch it. I remember watching an old Laurence Olivier clip at the UCLA.
Which clip?
Now, see, that I don't remember, interestingly enough.
That'd be a fun thing to drum up at some point for you, probably bring back some memories.
I think it would have been a stage production, so I think it would have been probably Olivier's Hamlet, would be my guess.
I guess a fun fact, you mentioned Hamlet / my guess is that's also Hamlet.
No, it's a home-style omelet.
Oh.
Laurence Olivier's dramatic reading of a home-style omelet being assembled with roast potatoes and charred red peppers, scarred red peppers, and beautiful little blistered tomatoes. Can you picture them there in the pan as the sugary juices pool around the bottom and lead to a satisfying little...
Wow. Scarred for life.
But speaking of Hamlets...
Yes, speaking of, well, I didn't know if you knew this, but Laurence Olivier was also in, as I remember, a staging of Hamlet. Okay.
Well, yeah, that's what I was referring to.
Right. Okay. Well, okay. But I recently returned from a trip in Denmark, hence my personal connection to that location.
Yes.
I was out there for some family revelry. Out there is a castle in a town called Helsingør, and that castle is famously known as Hamlet's castle. It was the castle that Shakespeare wrote Hamlet with that location in mind, and actually many a Hamlet production has been staged there in real life.
Hamlet is historical fiction, right? Like, it is based on a real... There was a real King Hamlet and his son, right?
Believe there was, yeah. Also, there's apparently a Hamlet movie that was shot entirely on location there with Michael Caine.
That's very fun.
How about that?
Was he playing Hamlet?
He was not. You could guess, but you would have guessed wrong.
That was fun. I'd like you at home now, as you lie asleep, try to picture as many roles as you can think of in the play Hamlet, and think about which of those roles you'd like to see Michael Caine in. Would it be fun to see him as old King Hamlet? How about old Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, young sidekicks? What about Ophelia? What does that do? What's that image for you? Is that silly? What did he play?
And now imagine Michael Caine riding all of the different sheep that are hopping over that fence.
Now do the thought. Okay, now rewind 15 seconds and do the thought exercise of trying to guess which of those laughs were real. Because both of us started doing the fake and then started laughing for real and cycled in and out of it for a little while. So I'd like you to think about that. I'd also like to ask you this question about Get the Message, Chris.
Yes.
It came out in 1964.
Okay.
Have you noticed anything interesting about the structure, format, and play style of this game relative to other well-known game shows of the 60s? Perhaps you've spotted that it's a huge exactly obvious ripoff of the show Password. Well, when I saw this article, I asked myself, was Password on the air when this came out? Yeah. Password came out in 1961 and was on the air until 1967. So the short-lived show, Get the Message, was probably struggling to find an audience because it was such a fucking shitty, filthy, shameless fucking ripoff of Password. Go to sleep thinking about the time you shamelessly ripped off someone in your life.
That's nice. And that, I think, really, really relaxes the mind and the senses. Who did you really wrong in some way that will inevitably come back full circle and bite you at some point? You know,
Yeah. Who's out there knowing your dark secret that you stole their whole identity? Are you an identity thief? Ponder that as you fall asleep.
What was the original show's name again? Pass the Secret?
Password.
No, sorry, the other one.
Oh, Get the Message.
Get the Message. I don't know where Pass the Secret came from. Get the Message.
I'm sure
it's
that
more
was
like
another password ripoff.
Steal the Message, more like it.
Yeah.
Right? That's fascinating. Was there a host? Did you already mention that there was a host? Was there a celebrity host of this show?
Well, we spoke briefly about Frank Buxton and Robert Q. Lewis, who got that Q in a pretty wacky way.
That's right.
Chris, as per your request, I clicked ahead to UCLA Film and Television Archive. I'm going to give you some options now of some of the collections held at the UCLA Film and Television Archive. And
fascinating.
You tell me where you'd like to go from here. And as an exercise, as you listen to this, try to count the vowels in each word I say. See if that helps you fall asleep. Viacom.
Me or the listener?
The listener.
Yeah.
You can if you're trying to fall asleep, you can try to count the vowels.
I got really stressed having to do that, so I don't have to. I'm glad I don't have to do shit.
I'm going to go slow enough that hopefully you'll have a second to pause and think Viacom, 3. Paramount, 4. Disney, 2, 3. What are we doing with Y?
Y's? Right.
What the fuck are we doing with Y? Why have I started swearing more in our sleep podcast? Is it that I find foul language relaxing because it makes it feel more intimate to me? It makes it feel like we're just here, we're just chatting. I'm not keeping up the artifice that I don't swear.
We're just fucking around, you know?
Sony, 2. Orion Pictures, 6.
6, and we're counting pictures as well.
MGM, that's a freebie. RKO. And how about such beloved figures as Hal Ashby, Tony Curtis?
Are we still counting vowels?
Charlton Heston. I'm waiting for you to tell me to somebody to click on. But I'm also encouraging the dear listener to count vowels.
I want you to click on Charlton Heston. Charlton Heston.
Charlton Heston.
Charlton. How do you spell Charlton?
Charlton. Charlton Heston, proud owner of guns and 4 vowels.
Beautiful.
Here's the thing I do sometimes to fall asleep, Chris. I count backwards and forwards by 5s, and I just sort of willy-nilly pick when I'm going backwards and when I'm going forward to keep it interesting for myself. So I'll be like 5, 10, 15, 20, 15, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 35, 30, 35, 40, 45. I'll do that for a while. It never works, and then I just listen.
It seems very engaged. Like your mind is very engaged in that activity.
That's what I'm looking for. That's why I pitched this vowel thing for me is like you're listening to names and you're also trying to count them. So you're trying to visualize. That's the like 7 out of 10 sauce for me is like I need to be thinking about, I need to be trying to engage and the effort of trying to engage.
Can I ask why engagement is important? Because isn't sleeping the disengagement from all of that?
But I have the common and crippling problem of not being able to will my brain off. So if I don't engage on a mundane thing, I'm going to be rapid firing through the day's anxieties and such, or even just like getting sparked up about a creative thing or something like that. But I like have a difficult time. I need the 7 out of 10 interesting engagement to keep myself from the 10 out of 10, to keep myself from being so engaged that I can't slow down and turn it off.
Can I say an interesting thing that happens for me or a time that makes me fall asleep quickly?
Yeah, please.
I find that to my great joy and luck, I sleep on planes very easily. I just go to sleep on planes. And I'm starting to wonder, I'd wondered why that happens for me. And I noticed that every time I get on a plane, there's a very specific time at which I start getting a wave of tiredness. And it's right when we start taxiing. It's right when the plane
That's
starts
when you
moving.
get tired? Oh,
yes.
Exit.
When we're exiting from the jetway. And my theory is that's when they're pressurizing the cabin.
Yeah, probably. You get a little extra rush of oxygen.
Well, I think they're bringing the oxygen down, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, probably.
Because
you get a little extra.
They're getting that equilibrium, so you're having less oxygen on the ground where there would be more, but you're still having more than what will be less when you're in the air. They're kind of getting that middle ground. So I find that they're kind of pressurizing the cabin, which makes my body, for whatever reason, the response is to get a little dozy, and I just kind of ride that wave. So what I'm saying, Jack, is in your room, you need to seal all holes and creases on doors and stuff like that, and you need to slowly suck the oxygen out of the room, just a little bit.
Sounds foolproof. This sounds foolproof.
And I think from there, as long as you have someone that you hire to regulate the pressurization of your bedroom, I almost feel like you'd be, able to sleep for however long you'd want.
The other thing that could be doing that a little bit on planes is the motion and the sound. Do you know why babies like to be shushed to sleep, and why like white noise machines work?
Is that kind of a womb sound, like body womb sound?
It's the like sound of blood rushing through the mother's body. It's the like shh, shh.
Let's do that for a little bit for
of
the
a
sleepers.
heartbeat. Shh, shh, shh.
Are we doing it in sync? Is that helpful?
We could.
Okay. Shh, 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 shh.
Those damn sheep again. It's those damn sheep.
They're everywhere. And what is Michael Caine? Oh, that's why he's on them. That's right.
Hey, Chris, would you like to hear about John Charles Carter, who was born October 4th, 1923, October 4th, Brian Singleton's birthday.
Fascinating.
In Willamette, Illinois, to Leela and Russell Whitford Carter. Russell Whitford Carter was a sawmill operator. Hey, who is this John Charles Carter? Well, you might know him a little bit better as Charlton Heston. That's right.
Oh
John
my God.
Charles Carter took his name. Hold on. I got to read ahead.
That's good. That's good.
His
You
Scottish.
got to slow it down because it's sounding too interesting.
Yeah. Where did this come from? Where did he get this name? His, I think like his Scotch great grandparents were Charltons. And then maybe the other side of the family. Where's Heston coming from? Heston refers to his father participating in his family's construction business. No, that's not. No, he's just in his biography. He refers to that. Sorry. Where does the name Charlton Heston come? Where'd you get this?
Well, I'll say this much. I'll tie it a little bit to Denmark. Okay, because that's obviously my expertise. Hest is Danish for horse.
Ah, maybe it's Chucky Horse. Charlton Heston, Chucky Horse guy. Okay. Well, that was the end of that podcast.
That's 30 minutes.
Are you
asleep right now?
I mean, we can just keep riding this for a second just to debrief out of it.
I don't want to. If we got someone to fall asleep, I don't want to wake him up now. Is it Catherine? Was that her name? Is she asleep?
Caitlin,
is Caitlin still asleep?
Or did we ruin it? Yesterday, I fell asleep to somebody's very relaxing Twitch stream. They were just playing a game in a very like quiet, relaxing
7 out of 10 way.
In a very like truly perfectly 7 out of 10 way. And I successfully fell asleep to it at like 11:30, which was like a miracle of miracles. And then an ad played because I hadn't subscribed to them. So I got an ad and it woke me up so bad. And then I was up till 4:30 last night. I got maybe like 10 minutes and then I subscribed to their channel so that I wouldn't get the ad.
Right.
And then the content got a little more interesting. They stopped playing the thing they were playing, started playing something a little more interesting.
That's what they do. That's what, I switched. They lure you in with that content you want, and then they hit you with that ad.
Yeah.
Then they hit you real hard with that ad. I'm
having a really hard time figuring out where he got the name Charlton Heston.
I'm telling you, man, he's a Danish horse. Okay, next subject.
Wake the fuck up, man.
Get the fuck out of here, okay? It's done. Your 30 minutes are fucking over.
Wake up. Clear out the bugs. Nap time's over, kiddo.
Yeah, I think that was a relaxing 30-minute nap for whoever was enjoying that. And now get the fuck out of bed, okay? Or couch, not on the road. You weren't listening to driving.
His mom, his parents got divorced and his mom remarried and he got adopted by the dad and took the name Heston as his new siblings had the name. Yeah, there we go.
They were all raised by horses.
Yeah, they were raised by horses, and then he went back and took Charlton as, I don't know, man. I'm thinking maybe I don't like Charlton Heston as much as I thought. Well, that was the podcast. Cruisin for a Snoozin.
Ooh,
I got pretty relaxed in there.
I did too. That was I love. That was a great proof of what we're doing here. I liked that it was a real different vibe. That's what I want. That's what I want to have happen in these.
What I liked when I was thinking about this one, I was like, if the premise is we're making pilots, we got to try some really different stuff, and they can't all be for everybody.
Right.
You know? If you try to make everything be universal, then you're not going to be hitting an audience at all. So this one was for the very specific audience of someone named Caitlin trying to fall asleep. So we got to hope that someone named Caitlin who's trying to fall asleep is a big, wealthy podcast investor.
I'm Googling, hang on, how popular is the name? How are you spelling Caitlin?
There's a lot of spellings. I'll say just for shorthand, let's go Caitlyn. I mean,
that's
there's
what
a lot
chose,
of ways
man. That's got to be the most popular.
I think IN is probably more popular than YN.
Caitlin,
but I'm not sure.
Caitlin, has been the most common spelling. The name reached the height of its popularity in 1988 when it ranked number 44.
So our odds are pretty good of having just really ruined the potential nap of a 32-year-old who's had a hard day. So I'm sorry, Caitlin.
Apologies, Caitlin. And we may have misspelled your name slightly.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Well, hey, talk about a couple podcasts in the running. Now let's land this plane, right? So we got to decide between two podcasts, were these good podcasts?
Let's repressurize the cabin and land this plane.
Yeah, of course. Nice, dude. Full circle. Great.
Yes.
Good.
I full circled a thing from 3 minutes ago.
Yes.
Now, how's that for a callback?
Yeah. Now, what we do at the end here is we decide. We decide.
Energy's coming back up. You know,
he's
we're waking back up.
He's feeling it. We got to decide between these two before we decide which one was the one we would do again. That's what we kind of say. Like, is there one that's likely we would do a second episode? We want to know between these two individually, were they a good podcast? We asked 3 questions. Was it fun? Was it repeatable? And does it add value to the world? How do we feel about Moms Want to Know? Jack, was it fun?
Moms Want to Know. I had a great time. I think I don't know that we would always get the fun bittiness of Bit Machine Lisbeth Smith.
Of course. But in some ways, that might also be the fun of it, is that you get earnest, non-bitty questions.
Different flavors of different moms.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Oh, God. We were so close.
So yes. So I think that's a very fun format. And I think genuinely, like, if for no other reason, that the demographic of mom, some of our, plenty of our peers are moms, but the demographic of mom includes a lot of people who are quite different from you and I. So it's a fun perspective to bring into our podcast.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that, and it feels repeatable.
Yeah.
Get a new mom.
Get a new mom each time. I think it is repeatable. And it could, each episode could be one mom. It could be a variety of moms, but just like a mom-only mailbag of just like, we're going to answer viewer questions, but we've got a favorite. We only want to hear from moms. It's a huge bias.
Right.
How do you feel, by the way, if we were to do this going forward, how do you feel about, like, I'm a dog mom, I'm a plant mom? How do you feel about that?
Oh,
as a cultural thing.
I'm all about every iteration of mom. I think is absolutely on the table.
Too inclusive for me, Chris. Gotta be. No fucking way, dude. You have to have. You have
you're
to
right.
have
What are we
birthed
doing?
a
We gotta
child.
get very specific.
And
No, you're right.
No adoption. Okay, none of that.
None of that.
No, I agree. I think we can do special episodes of Plant Moms Want to Know.
Right.
No, I'm all for moms of all kinds.
Does it add value to the world, Jack?
Well, I'm going to argue on both sides of it. Does it add value to the world? We're amplifying the voices of moms.
Right.
But we're only doing so to the extent that they ask us questions about ourselves. So is our very navel-gazing, please ask us questions about ourselves podcast adding value to the world? I would say no.
Probably not. Probably not. No. And if anyway, it's probably maybe even like watering down / veering from the actual interesting thing, which would be kind of like learning about these moms, like learning about these people. That'd be more interesting.
Go there at all.
No. It made it all about us very quickly.
It's moms want to know, not we want to know moms.
Right. But that's part of the premise. So
maybe next time we want to know moms.
But so overall, you think it was a good podcast?
Yeah, I think it was a good podcast. I think it was a good podcast. I think it was repeatable, but it is so much just ask us stuff about ourselves.
Yeah, and it feels I agree. I don't know if we were to say like is that our podcast? But
it was nice. I'll say it was nice to have a thing we have not had much of 3 episodes into this, which is like an opportunity for me to ask you about your high school dating life, an opportunity for you to ask me about being a dad. There was some nice personal stuff in there that allowed us to be vulnerable and to talk about stuff.
Right. Wow. And we kind of got vulnerable. There was a lot of bits, but maybe we could lean in. I mean, if we had a full hour and we did multiple episodes. I could have been more vulnerable
about the Velociraptor sumo suit. You know, I kind of blew past that, and that's a real deep personal well of emotion. So totally. I'm sorry I rushed through there. Snoozin for a Cruisin for a Snoozin was what I called it the first time. I just got a text and someone's trying to friggin' steal something from me. I know it.
Oh boy.
It was like you won the drawing, friggin', and Walmart. I didn't do any. Okay.
Oh, they're fishing for a
I'm punching.
Fishing. They're cruising for a bruising is what they're cruising for.
That was what it was.
Nice.
Okay. Was it fun? Would you say Cruisin for a Snoozin was fun?
I had a lot of fun. And I had a lot of fun probably for the reasons that were not snooze-worthy.
I agree. I think it was very fun in ways detrimental to the premise. So the premise itself, therefore, I would say is willfully unfun.
The best equivalency I can give to what that podcast experience was being in middle school age and being in church and being told you can't laugh. Can't laugh in church.
Yeah, but while giving the sermon is a weird experience.
Yes. But a very nice, I enjoyed, I'll say, I also enjoyed the pace change. I enjoyed the voice tonal change. I enjoyed being called out that I was getting too loud. I liked that it was but I liked that I was like, oh, wait, no, it was a nice little self-awareness moment where I'm like, my default is a little loud. My default's a little quick.
Sure.
Let's slow that down a little bit, see what that feels like. And it really got some blood flowing in a way that I liked.
I agree. The funness of it is I would argue maybe tough to gauge on the inside. This is one that I'm genuinely curious. I could imagine that podcast. I could imagine someone who loves us and is even liking this podcast so far, hating listening to that.
Yeah.
I think us like talking slow and quiet and boringly while then every once in a while just going might have been a really terrible ear experience for someone.
Certainly. But here's what we can say about that. They probably turned it off or tuned out, or if they're still here, are so angry, there's no coming back. So really, I think at this point, I don't know if there's anybody that's still around that's like on the fence about any of it. They either love what they've been experiencing or hate it so much that they're just kind of biding their time, hoping that we're going to give some sort of personal detail that they can kind of find us and track us down or something like that, you know?
Is that actually what this Walmart text just was? Is there someone who's hating this podcast so much that they sent this through time to kill me?
So it seems like they're cruising for a bruising on you.
They're cruising.
That's to bruise you.
Would you say that this podcast is repeatable?
Infinitely repeatable. Absolutely.
We could do this fucking shit forever.
Ever, dude.
We could just whisper in your annoyed little ear
all of the
forever.
time.
Would we say it adds value to the world?
I think honestly, this is one where that question I think this is going to be one we answer no to a lot, but this one from the fundamental, correct me if I'm wrong, from the base is created with the intention of offering something. Yeah,
the premise, like if we succeeded, it would absolutely add value. So I'd actually be genuinely curious to hear if that worked in any way for anyone. If there's anyone out here who tried this as a sleep aid, as a like, oh yeah, I'll throw this podcast on while I'm going to sleep. Why not?
We'll create a post in our Patreon only for Caitlin's to respond on.
Attention, Caitlin's. Did you fall asleep?
That's all we want to know. Okay. Was this a service to your world? Did it add value? And are you still awake now to create that post? Or are you still asleep? And our little like loud, hey, we're coming back up for air, landing the plane stuff didn't wake you up. That'd be cool.
Good to know. But I would say the potential for Cruisin for a Snoozing, and I'm going to pronounce the N.
Of course, you got to have the G in there.
A snoozing. Cruising for a Snoozing, the potential for it to add value to the world, quite high. I would say like if its inability to add value would simply be because we're potentially bad at making that podcast. But that's not really the question of a pilot. It might be a bad pilot for a show that we then refine the process of it. We get a rhythm that feels more comfortable, that is better at helping people actually fall asleep. And if we did that, would it be adding value to the world? Yes.
Emphatically.
Absolutely.
Yes.
More than like, I don't know how good we could get at Fanzane for it to have to add value to the world. How much practice could we ever commit to make that valuable?
Right.
But if we help one person fall asleep and don't ruin that one Caitlin's sleep, we've done something here, you know?
Yeah. Okay, Jack. Well, let's land this plane fully between the two podcasts, right?
Yeah.
I'd say what we just described made Cruisin for a Snoozing, I would deem a good podcast.
I would say that's probably the winner of this episode, with the possibility that a lot of people hated it and are gone and don't know that we're giving it any sort of plaudits.
It's also it's being judged off of a rubric of three questions. That one answered, I'd say yes was the answer to all three of those questions. But
it might not have been
maybe
fun.
To specific people though, but only to specific people.
Right.
And I don't want this to be, because I'm going to send this to my mom, and I don't want this to be at all a detriment to your contribution, Mom, to say that your podcast didn't win.
Elizabeth, you crushed it.
It's my premise that was off.
Yeah, the reason to not repeat it was not enough Elizabeth, too much us talking about...
Yeah. Well, Jack, what a joy, huh?
What a treat as always.
Jack Joy. Love that.
We'll be back in a week after next. We're going to do this, as we mentioned, every other week. Bi-weekly. How do you feel about the term bi-weekly to me?
We talk about this. Week? It trips me out.
I hate it.
It trips me out. I'm like, are we doing twice a week then? Or are we doing every other week?
And it means both, and that's wrong. Choose a lane, the word bi-weekly or bi-monthly or biannually.
Or bicycle. So
Choose
this
a
has
lane
been
bicycle.
Podcast
I loved
Pilots.
that, Chris. Hold on. I'm sorry. Hold on. That joke was great.
Thank you.
Choose a lane bicycle? That joke was great, Chris.
Okay.
We can't just like, I know that you want to like close on a high note and immediately sign off.
Yeah.
But I would like to invite our listening audience into the after podcast thing where we turn this off and I go, yo, dude, that fucking bicycle joke was so funny.
Dude, right? That just
caught me, man. That was really good. What clever wordplay. Okay.
All right. So assuming we didn't, maybe we even trimmed that out and just is like, bam, dude, bicycle
could
and
be
we're
a hot
out.
ending. That's good. That's possible.
But we want to show our process. We want to show how the chefs make the souffle, right?
Because you're our network executives helping us choose which podcast should go past the pilot phase.
Right. So we're inviting you in now, okay? You're in.
Just whether you like it or not. Thing again. Chris, say the bicycle thing.
Or bicycle.
choose a lane. Hey, thanks for listening, everybody. What a perfect
Podcast
joke.
Pilots, the pilot.
The podcast.
Podcast. Fascinating. Fascinating. Listen, y'all, we had a blast doing this. I can't wait to do more.
How many
this has been a
sign-offs
real
can we do?
joy.
I thought your fascinating was a really nice, like, that's sort of a weird halftone to end on. But now we're here for just extra sign-offs.
Yeah. Also,
Someone's
if you have
asleep.
ideas for podcasts you'd like us to try, toss them in our Discord channel, shoot us a message, put it in under the reply on this post.
Write it on a note, tuck it under your doormat, invite us
Jack.
over, text me. It's got one of those, it's great news. The winning code, and then they got a bunch of numbers printed on your receipt, came in third in the Walmart draw. So then they want me to click on this link and then enter my winning code. It's one of those, it's a
signed Gene
Instagram
Kelly. Is this like a digital version of the game show?
Yeah.
It's like yeah.
All right. Well, does this ever end?
I don't think so. I think are you asleep yet? You should be now.
You should be finally asleep.
Whenever you're listening to this, wherever you're listening to this from, have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful night. Maybe continue to have a wonderful sleep because you're wonderful. And you know what? You're fine just the way you are.
This has been Chris and Jack's Podcast Pilots, the podcast, reminding you that you're fine just the way you are.
It's too easy to ride the line. All right, I'm going to end this.
Yeah, that was it. That's fine.